So, as you all know, this is a story that I was following heavily for a while last year when the story first broke. I was one of the first people to reveal all of the people that were involved in this college admission scandal. And it kind of fizzled out a little bit. Like, people stopped caring about it, as I knew most people would. And I'm not saying I stopped caring about it, but I already knew what the outcome was going to be when it came to certain individuals. And I said to myself, if Lori Loughlin and her husband do not plead guilty to this, they're going to serve a lot of time behind bars. Well, it has just come out that after months, probably over a year, because it kicked off in March of last year when this story first broke. Lori Loughlin and her husband have finally decided to plead guilty. Now, mind you, they have been holding on to this not guilty plea for the longest. Like, they were the most, I guess you could say, out of everybody in the case, were the most stubborn. And I'm sitting here saying to myself, why are you even wasting your palm-colored privilege? Just go and plead guilty and you're going to get a slap on the wrist. I'm saying you're willingly allowing yourself to want to be thrown in jail for many years. They were facing 40 years if they had stuck with that not guilty plea. But the fact of the matter is, they allowed them to hold on to that not guilty plea for so long and gave them the opportunity of a huge window of opportunity, a huge gap to allow them to plead guilty. They just pled guilty this week after pleading not guilty since last year. Everyone else pled not guilty and they got a slap on the wrist. And I'm looking over at them. I'm like, are you going to waste your PC privilege? Like, are you not getting the hint? Felicity Huffman only got sentenced to 2 weeks in jail. And she only did like a week. You had another guy who did 1 day. 1 day in jail. Just 1 day. The rest of them, they are doing minimal sentences. I think they said the person who got the longest amount of time got like, 3 months? Well, that's about to be, I think, surpassed after I get through this article, but I have to get this out right quick. And they have only sentenced Lori Loughlin to 2 months in jail, and her husband got 5. I doubt either one of them is going to do the entire length of their sentences. If they can let Felicity Huffman out of jail when she was only been there for 2 weeks, and she only did a week and like a couple days, I doubt that they're going to give them or have them do that lengthy of a sentence. Now, I've had some black people say in their own little way, well, if they were black, then they most likely would have took the offer too to get their dumbass kids into college. They didn't say dumbass kids, but I'm just throwing that in there because let's be real here. The ones who did this for their children got to be dumb as hell for them to do something like this. I can't say whether they would if they wouldn't, but if they would, we know for a fact they wouldn't give them a window of opportunity like they gave these two. They wouldn't give them a slap on the wrist like they gave everybody else. As a matter of fact, let's rewind a little bit. If y'all remember in Georgia a few years ago, you had some teachers, black teachers, who was helping their kids excel. I'm going to put it like that because, that's the coded language. They helped their kids excel. They give them a little boost. And what happened with them? They made it a national spectacle. They made to put each and every teacher involved on blast. Every last teacher was black, man and woman. They lost their teaching license. They were fired. They could not get hired as a teacher again. And some of them got years in prison for that. And they had to serve it. They're most likely, of course, out by now, but their reputations, of course, were tarnished. These individuals right here, this thing is going to fizzle. They were probably like, look, y'all are holding this up. And by holding this up, I mean, y'all are holding this scandal up. by not just pleading guilty. They like, if you would just pled guilty, you would have probably been in and out of jail by now, and we would not be talking about the scandal anymore. They were saying y'all are holding it up by wanting to plead not guilty. And see, if they let that not guilty plea stand, then that scandal will carry on for many years, and they're trying to make it go away. Every last person that was involved with this scandal, with the exception of one person, was PC. The one person who wasn't, who was a black guy, was a teacher or a coach or something like that. I don't know what's going to come of him. We still don't know what's to come of the ringmaster, the ringleader of this whole thing. So as far as we know, that part is still ongoing. But as far as the celeb side, this is like the nail in the coffin right here. Like this part right after this is pretty much over. This is the one they wanted to go away as soon as possible, because they figure people are not going to care about what happens to the person who was the mastermind behind the whole thing. And most people are not. But now that I've gotten that out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and read this article. Lori Loughlin and her husband Massimo Giannulli have taken a generous plea deal which will see them serve just 2 and 5 months respectively in prison for taking part in a college bribery scheme to get their dumbass daughters into school. The pair had been facing 40 years behind bars each for paying Rick Singer, the scheme mastermind, $500,000 excuse me to pass their daughters off to officials at USC as rolling stars when neither had ever played the sport. They were arrested in March 2019, along with 50 other parents, including actress Felicity Huffman. Lori and Massimo pleaded not guilty immediately and insisted they thought they were giving money to charity, but on Wednesday, the pairs both signed plea agreements where they accepted they would plead guilty to 1 count of conspiracy to commit fraud. I want this to stick to them for the rest of their lives. Because the only punishment I can see either one of them getting, and the same with Felicity Huffman, is them being blackballed out of Hollywood. But something tells me that's not going to happen. Because, you know, Lori Loughlin, they called her the Hallmark Queen. Meaning, whenever there was a Hallmark movie, like she was literally in at least one Hallmark movie a year. It's almost like she had a contract with them. Felicity Huffman, if y'all didn't know, she played in that When They See Us miniseries that came on Netflix. I swear, it's crazy because of the character that she played in that movie and how she is in real life, apparently. While she in real life, she may not be as near as bad as the character she portrayed in that movie. Her real life ain't squeaky clean anymore. Especially with this. This needs to follow them for the rest of their lives. I'm not a fan of the paparazzi, but I hope that every time they see them, that they ask them about this. I want this to haunt them. Period. Because who knows if Hollywood is even going to kick them out of Hollywood. You know, they give them so many chances. But this was such a big scandal at one point. But it didn't get the legs that it should have to keep it in the news. Like I said, these two were the ones holding that up. Now that they have decided to plead guilty, give it another week or two or maybe another month and you'll never hear about this scandal ever again. As part of their plea deal, Lori will serve 2 months in prison and pay $150,000, and Massimo will serve 5 months in prison. Now, isn't that interesting that she only got 2 months and he got 5? Basically, they're implying that it was his idea to go to this Rick Singer guy to do this. And based on text messages that I did see, it kind of was his idea. Like when I was looking, did a video, and I think that was one of the last update videos I did concerning this. He was the one exchanging the text messages with this Rick Singer guy. And he was the one that was, as a matter of fact, in one of the text messages says something like, take pictures of them in a rowboat or rowing wearing some kind of uniform to make it look authentic. Because that was one of the text messages, the screenshot that got out. I remember it now. So now I can see why he got more time than she did. Both will plead guilty to a single count of conspiracy to commit wire and mail fraud, which carries a maximum sentence of 20 years behind bars. Both have been facing additional charges such as conspiracy conspiracy to commit federal programs robbery, conspiracy to commit money laundering that have all been dropped. A judge still has to approve their sentences, and a hearing date has not yet been set. William Track, a lawyer for the couple, declined to comment in their change of heart on Thursday morning after the plea deals were announced by the Justice Department. The pair are the 23rd and 24th parents to plead guilty as part of the case. Now look at that. 23rd and 24th. That means they still have 25 more to go. Well, actually not 25 as far as parents go, because they still have to get Rick Singer and his little underlings that was a part of it as well that were not the parents. That's included in the additional 25. The harshest sentence was handed to Douglas Hodge, who was given 9 months. Okay, so I have to take back what I said. I thought he got more months. I forgot that the other person did get 9 months. 9 months, y'all. 9 months was the harshest sentence given to somebody for this scheme. Less than a year. And they make it seem like 9 months is so long, because that person got sentenced, sometime late last year. They'll be out by the end of the summer, mid to end of the summer. If nobody believed that PC privilege was a thing, I need them to go back and re-examine this entire case. All the way to the beginning, when the story first broke in March of 2019. I remember it to the day when that happened. I immediately made a video about it. And that was a very heavily edited video. And it took over an hour to make. And usually I don't like to spend that much time on videos. But I said I had to get that one out there. Because mainstream media wasn't going to talk about it the way that it should be. They barely talk about it at all. Like, this stuff has almost been reduced to pretty much internet stuff. And I'm talking about pre-woo-woo. After a while, you didn't really see a lot of television networks talk about this. But when that scandal happened with those teachers down in Georgia, they talked about that for a while. As a matter of fact, here where I'm at, and I think I've talked about this on my channel before, in Montgomery County, which is predominantly PC, years ago, there was a standardized statewide test that every school had to take. And it got exposed that teachers at this particular school in Montgomery County were cheating for their kids, for their students. Because of that, they had to get rid of the entire test. That test from that day forward never was taken again by any student, by any child in the state of Maryland. And that happened, I want to say, back when I was in high school. So that was a while ago. And I remember it vividly when it happened. And I was kind of glad, because I didn't like that test anyway. I forgot it was some kind of Maryland standardized test. I'm not a test taker. I'm gonna just be honest. I'm not. But they were not reprimanded the same way those teachers down in Georgia were. They didn't lose, to my knowledge, I don't think they lost their jobs. And if they did they really get fired? Did they really get terminated? Or did they get shifted into another position at another school? Because I don't even remember them putting the teachers' faces out there on the news like that. When the teachers down in Georgia, when that happened, that made national news. When what happened in Maryland, that was just state and local news. They made sure to keep that hush hush. But with them teachers in Georgia, they made sure we knew what school it happened at. They made sure to tell us what classes it happened in. And they made sure to plaster each of their faces out there and let us know what their consequences was going to be. I remember it all. And I think that happened when I was in college. So it wasn't too far off from when the incident happened when I was in high school. It was maybe a few year difference. But yet again, like I said, us versus them.